Life has this peculiar way of feeling lighter when we're young and heavier as the years pass, and I think there are some profound reasons why so many of us feel this weight increasing with time. When I look back at childhood and then compare it to adult life, the contrast is almost startling, and understanding why this happens can help us make sense of our own journey. Think about being a child for a moment. Your biggest concern might have been what game to play after school or whether you'd get to stay up late on Friday night. Someone else made sure there was food on the table, that the bills were paid, that you had clothes to wear and a roof over your head. Your parents or caregivers created this protective bubble around you where the complexities of the world were filtered out, and you could exist in a space where curiosity and play were your main occupations. The responsibilities you had were small and manageable, maybe keeping your room clean or finishing your homework, and even these felt significant to you then, but looking back, they were nothing compared to what was to come. As we grow older, that protective bubble starts to thin and eventually disappears entirely. Suddenly we're the ones who have to make sure there's food in the house, and not just any food, but food that fits within a budget we have to carefully manage. We're the ones paying rent or a mortgage, utilities, insurance, taxes, and a dozen other expenses that never seemed to exist before. The financial pressure alone can be crushing because money stops being something that just appears and becomes something you have to constantly think about, plan for, worry about, and work hard to earn. You realize that financial security isn't guaranteed, that one unexpected medical bill or car repair can throw everything into chaos, and this awareness brings a kind of anxiety that children simply don't experience. But it's not just about money. The sheer number of decisions we have to make as adults is exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. Every single day presents us with countless choices, from mundane ones about what to eat and what to wear to major ones about career paths, relationships, where to live, whether to have children, how to invest for retirement, and how to balance all our competing priorities. Each decision carries weight because we understand now that our choices have consequences that ripple out into the future. When you're young, if you make a poor choice, someone is usually there to catch you or the consequences are temporary and small. As an adult, a bad decision about your career or your finances or your relationships can affect you for years or even decades. The complexity of relationships also increases dramatically as we age. When you're a child, friendships are simple and often based on proximity and shared interests. You play with the kids on your street or in your class, and if you have a fight, you usually make up quickly and move on. Adult relationships require so much more nuance and effort. You have to navigate complex social dynamics at work, maintain friendships despite busy schedules and geographic distance, manage romantic relationships with all their emotional intricacies, possibly deal with in-laws and extended family drama, and if you have children, you're suddenly responsible for other human beings in a way that's both beautiful and terrifying. Every relationship requires emotional labor, communication skills, empathy, and time, and there are only so many hours in a day. Then there's the weight of expectations, both external and internal. Society has clear markers for what success looks like at different ages, and whether we consciously agree with these markers or not, they exert pressure on us. We're supposed to have finished our education by a certain age, be established in a career, be financially stable, perhaps be married or in a serious relationship, maybe have children, own property, and have it all together. When we look around and see others seemingly achieving these milestones while we struggle, it creates comparison and self-doubt. Even worse are the expectations we place on ourselves, the internal voice that says we should be further along or doing better or making more money or being happier. We become our own harshest critics in a way that children rarely are. The loss of time itself becomes heavier as we age. When you're young, time feels infinite. Summer vacations felt like they lasted forever, and the idea of being 30 or 40 seemed impossibly far away. As an adult, time accelerates in a disorienting way. Years fly by, and suddenly you realize you're running out of time to do all the things you wanted to do, to become the person you imagined you'd be, to build the life you dreamed about. There's a sense of urgency that creeps in, a feeling that opportunities are closing rather than opening, and this creates pressure that weighs on every decision we make. Our bodies also start to remind us that we're not invincible. When you're young, you bounce back from everything quickly. You can stay up all night, eat poorly, skip exercise, and your body just handles it. As we age, we start to feel the consequences of how we treat ourselves. Energy levels drop, recovery takes longer, aches and pains appear, and we become aware of our mortality in a way we never were before. This physical decline, even when it's subtle, adds to the sense that life is getting harder because we're literally carrying more weight and have less energy to deal with all our increased responsibilities. The world itself also reveals its complexity to us as we mature. Children are often shielded from the harsh realities of life, from understanding systemic injustice, from seeing suffering and poverty up close, from comprehending the scale of problems like climate change or political corruption or economic inequality. As we grow up and our eyes open to these realities, it's hard not to feel overwhelmed and sometimes hopeless. We realize that individual effort, no matter how sincere, may not be enough to solve these massive problems, and this awareness of our own limitations in the face of such challenges is itself a heavy burden to carry. Work takes up an enormous portion of adult life, and for many people, it's not fulfilling or meaningful but simply necessary for survival. We spend the majority of our waking hours doing jobs that may not align with our passions or values, working for bosses who don't appreciate us, navigating office politics, dealing with difficult colleagues, and feeling the constant pressure to perform or risk losing our livelihood. The dream of doing what we love often collides with the reality of bills that need to be paid, and this compromise between our ideals and our needs is another source of the heaviness that comes with age. There's also the accumulation of regrets and what-ifs that pile up over time. Every path we choose means other paths we didn't take, and as we get older, we carry these ghosts of alternative lives we might have lived. Maybe we wonder what would have happened if we'd taken that job in another city, or pursued a different degree, or stayed with a certain person, or been braver at a crucial moment. Children don't have these regrets yet because they haven't accumulated enough experiences, but adults carry them like stones in their pockets, and each one adds a little more weight. The loss of wonder and spontaneity is another subtle but significant change. Children approach the world with fresh eyes, finding magic in ordinary things and living fully in the present moment. Adults become jaded and practical, seeing the mechanics behind everything, unable to fully lose themselves in the moment because there's always something else we should be doing or thinking about. We lose the ability to play without purpose, to explore without a destination, to be fully present without our minds wandering to our to-do lists and worries. Social isolation often increases with age as well. In school, we're surrounded by peers and social interaction is built into our daily routine. As adults, especially after we leave school and enter the workforce, making and maintaining friendships becomes much harder. People move away, get busy with their own families and careers, and suddenly we realize we're lonely in ways we never were before. This isolation is compounded by the fact that adults are often expected to be self-sufficient and not burden others with their problems, so we suffer quietly rather than reaching out for help. The health challenges that come with aging add another layer of difficulty. It's not just our own health we worry about but also that of our aging parents, who may need care and support just as we're trying to manage our own lives. Watching our parents decline and eventually die is one of the most difficult aspects of growing older, forcing us to confront mortality and take on the role of caregiver when we may not feel ready for it. All of these factors compound and interact with each other, creating a life that feels increasingly complex and demanding as the years pass. But here's what's important to understand: this difficulty isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong or that life is supposed to be easy and you're failing at it. The difficulty is inherent to the journey of growing up and taking on adult responsibilities in a complex world. Everyone experiences this to some degree, though we often hide our struggles and present a polished exterior to the world, making others think they're the only ones finding it hard. What makes life bearable despite its increasing weight is developing resilience, finding meaning in our struggles, building genuine connections with others, learning to let go of unrealistic expectations, and accepting that hard doesn't mean wrong. We also gain wisdom and perspective that children don't have, an understanding that difficult periods pass, that we're stronger than we think, and that there's beauty and depth in the complexity even when it's overwhelming. Life becomes harder as we grow, yes, but we also become more capable of carrying that hardness, and in the carrying itself, we often find purpose and meaning we never could have discovered in easier times.